The workshop smelled of oil, metal, and forgotten dreams. Ethan, a mechanic in his late 30s, spent his days fixing broken engines and his nights in silence. Once, he'd had a wife who used to bring him coffee and kiss his greasy forehead, but a car accident took her away on a rainy night. Since then, he had promised himself one thing: never get close to anyone again. He trusted only machines. Engines don't leave you, he used to say while wiping his hands with an old rag. But even engines, sometimes, refuse to start, just like his heart. One stormy evening, while he was repairing an old pickup, someone knocked on the door. He opened it to find a woman, drenched and trembling, holding a little girl in her arms. "Please," she said, breathless. "The hospital's closed because of the storm. We just need a warm place for the night." Ethan hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in." He gave them blankets and made some tea. The girl was pale, her breathing shallow. She looked around the greasy workshop with wide eyes. "Do you fix everything here?" she asked softly. "Everything that has a motor," Ethan replied. "Can you fix people too?" He froze for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Not anymore." The storm raged on. The woman fell asleep in the chair, exhausted. Ethan stayed awake, keeping an eye on the little girl. Her cough got worse. He sat beside her. "Are you in pain?" he asked. She nodded weakly, then whispered, "If you carry me upstairs, I'll tell you a secret." Ethan hesitated. The upstairs room was his private space, untouched since his wife died. But the little girl's voice was fragile, pleading. So he lifted her gently in his arms. She was so light it almost broke his heart. As he climbed the stairs, she rested her head on his shoulder. "You smell like my dad," she murmured. Ethan's voice cracked. "What did your dad smell like?" "Like metal and kindness." He laid her on his bed, covered her with a blanket, and said softly, "Now tell me your secret." The little girl looked at him with those deep, innocent eyes. "I'm not afraid to die," she said quietly. "Because Mom says God sends good people to take care of you before heaven. I think you're one of them." Ethan's heart stopped for a moment. He didn't know what to say. He just sat beside her, holding her hand as the rain tapped softly on the window. When morning came, the storm had ended. The mother woke up suddenly and ran upstairs. Ethan followed. The bed was empty. On the pillow was a folded piece of paper. It said, "Thank you for carrying me to heaven." The mother screamed. Her little girl's body was later found near the big oak tree behind the workshop, peaceful, smiling. Ethan couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He buried her with his own hands beside the tree. Days passed. The mother visited often, leaving flowers. Once, she handed Ethan a drawing she had found in the girl's backpack. It showed a man with metal wings carrying a little girl up the stairs. "She used to say angels were real," whispered the mother. "Looks like she was right." Ethan didn't answer. He just nodded, his eyes wet. That night, he hung the drawing on the wall of his workshop, right next to the photo of his wife. From then on, he changed. He started fixing cars for free. And on the door, he painted a sign: "Repairs for all engines, bikes, and broken hearts." One winter, an old man came by to fix his truck. While waiting, he told Ethan about a charity that helps sick children fulfill their last wishes. "Most of them just want a ride," the man said. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He thought of the girl's smile, her whisper, "If you carry me upstairs." The next morning, he repainted his old van, bright white, and wrote across the side, "Heaven rides free." He began driving sick children from the hospital to the mountains, to the sea, to wherever they dreamed of going. He never charged a cent. Sometimes they just drove under the stars, singing. Other mechanics soon joined him. People donated fuel. And every week, a new child left a drawing in the van, a man with metal wings. One day, a little boy sitting beside him asked, "Why do you do this, mister?" Ethan smiled. "Because someone once told me a secret." "What secret?" "That angels don't always come from heaven." Sometimes they fix engines and carry people where they need to go. The boy laughed, and Ethan laughed too, but his chest felt lighter, like the ache had finally begun to heal. Years passed. His hair turned gray, his hands slower, but he never stopped driving. When he finally grew too weak to work, they found him one morning asleep in his van, parked beneath the same oak tree where the little girl rested. On the passenger seat was a small note in his handwriting. I climbed the stairs again. She was waiting at the top. The whole town came to his funeral. The children from the hospital released white balloons into the sky, watching them drift higher and higher. One balloon lingered, floating above the workshop before disappearing into the clouds right above the fading sign that still read, "Repairs for all engines and hearts." And somewhere beyond the clouds, maybe, a little girl smiled, because the man who once carried her had finally found his way home. Months passed after Ethan's funeral, but the town didn't forget him. The smell of oil and steel still lingered around the old workshop, though its doors remained closed. People would pass by, slow their steps, and glance at the faded sign, "Repairs for all engines and hearts." Some left flowers. Others left little notes, drawings, even tools, as if he might come back and fix one more thing. Then one day, the hospital children arrived. They came with nurses, parents, and doctors. They cleaned the workshop, washed the old tools, and polished the white van. Someone painted on the wall, "The mechanic who carried angels." The mayor of the small town decided to hold a ceremony. Not a grand one, Ethan wouldn't have wanted that, but a quiet, human one. The people gathered under the same oak tree where the girl and Ethan now rested. The sky glowed gold and pink. Children held candles. The wind was soft, carrying the faint smell of motor oil and wildflowers. The mother of the little girl stood near the van, her hands trembling as she spoke. He never asked for money. Never asked for thanks. He only said one thing, that helping one soul was like repairing the world. She paused, tears running down her cheeks. "My daughter used to say angels fix broken things. I didn't understand what she meant, until I met him." One by one, people shared their stories: the farmer whose tractor Ethan fixed for free, the nurse whose cart he repaired in the middle of a storm, the old man whose wheelchair motor he rebuilt. Each story different, but all ending the same way: "He didn't just fix my machine. He fixed me." As the ceremony ended, the children asked if they could ride in the van one last time. The mother nodded. They climbed inside, laughter echoing through the air, and as the van rolled forward, it seemed to move on its own, the engine purring softly, the sunlight reflecting off the windshield. For a moment, everyone swore they saw two silhouettes in the driver's seat, a man with silver hair and a little girl beside him, smiling. The van stopped beneath the oak tree. The children placed their candles in a circle around it. The flames danced gently, flickering in the evening breeze. One of the boys whispered, "He's up there, right? Fixing the stars now." The nurse smiled through her tears. "Yes, maybe that's why they shine so bright tonight." The workshop became a sanctuary. They turned it into a place where people could bring broken toys, bikes, or memories and fix them together. No one took money. The sign stayed the same. Above the counter hung the little girl's drawing, the man with metal wings carrying her up the stairs. Every year, on the night of the storm, the same night the girl first knocked on his door, people gather by the oak tree. They bring candles, and the children tell the story again. Once, there was a mechanic who didn't believe in miracles. Until a little girl asked him to carry her upstairs. And each time, when the last candle flickers out, the wind moves softly through the leaves. The engine of the old van hums faintly, though no one touches it. Some say it's just the breeze. Others say it's Ethan, starting one last ride. The stars above the oak tree shine brighter than anywhere else in town. If you listen closely, you can almost hear a child's laugh and a gentle voice answering, "Hold on tight. I'll take you where the light never fades." Because some promises, especially those made between broken hearts, last longer than a lifetime. Would you like me to continue with an epilogue-style final 5 minutes, showing what happens 20 years later when a grown-up child from the hospital reopens Heaven Rides to continue Ethan's legacy?